Hello and welcome to this episode of the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. My name is Ian Barstow and thank you very much for downloading this new podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episodes so far. So in this week's episode we are going to be talking to businessman and a long-term friend, in air quotes, that I know, called Mr. Damian Lee. We first met about 20 years ago when we were working for a telemarketing company. We'll go into that in some detail on the podcast. But it's a really interesting conversation with Damian. We go through his start into his new business, how he got to start his recruitment agency business that he's done now for the last 5 years. Some of the difficulties that he's had running that business from the start, and also other bits as well. So we'll talk about things that happened during our time at this telemarketing company and how we got away with what we did. That sounds worse than it was. It was just stupid at the time. But anyway, we were young and reckless and carefree and all of that. We'll also talk about his time at the Disney Channel. It's not as extravagant as it sounds, I can completely tell you that now. But it's an interesting story nonetheless. It's a really good conversation. It was really good to speak to Damian and to get behind the microphone after probably about 12 years. We've chatted on and off between then, but it was really good to catch up with him. So I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. It was a lot of fun. We recorded it during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, so it was virtual via Zoom, so some of the audio is a little clippy here and there, so apologies for that, but we do the best we can in the situation we are in. So without further ado, thank you very much for downloading the As Yet Unnamed Podcast, and let's hand over to me in the interview with Mr. Damian Lee. Enjoy.
Done some branding.
Oh, jeez. I noticed a calendar in the background as well.
Yeah, I don't know how that got there, to be honest. I don't know. I was going to drink this, but I thought that's probably not relevant now. It's during,
No, they were doing them cheap in Tesco's, though.
That's where I got mine from. What a bargain.
Like £10 a box or something like that, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Hello and welcome to the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. I am Ian Barstow and we are joined in this episode by Damian Lee, who I first met probably about 20 years ago-ish, I would think so, when we worked together, and then we went on an interesting journey for a number of years, and that sounds more romantic than it actually was. So, hello, Mr. Damian Lee.
Hello, Ian. Do you know what that was a build up with truth, romance, suspense, in between. It was a journey, and I know we're going to go into that in more detail. But yeah, hi. How are you?
I am good, and how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's a bit bizarro land at the moment. It's all strange, but safe. Healthy and well, and I think that's the main thing. You can't moan when there's so many people, who are in a worse position. So in the house, kids, wife, business, doing good.
Good. So yeah, we are recording this on Thursday, the 14th of May, 2020. So depending on when you're listening to this, we may either be over it, out of it, still in it. Who knows? But yes, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic and also the COVID-19 lockdown, which is very strange. Something I never thought I would see or live through. I have to say, it's very, very odd indeed. So you explain your business. We'll do the serious business stuff first, then we'll get on to the fun stuff. So explain your business. So it's called Swift Temps. You're one of those companies that people love to hate. A bit like estate agents.
A bit like me as well, to be fair.
Well, yeah, that's very true. But yeah, a bit like estate agents, but it's a recruitment agency. And you've started it when? How long have you been running the business?
So I started the business in 2016. So yeah, we're a recruitment business for temporary and permanent staff in the Midlands and the Northwest. So yes, we're going into, it'll be year 5 from October for our Midland side, and then our north side will be 3 years next year. So yeah, it's crazy to think, actually. It's aged me, so.
And how are you finding the current situation? What's the impact? I'd imagine I know companies aren't recruiting full-time staff. I know the company I work for, we are not recruiting anybody, but I would imagine there is a need for temporary staff at the moment. So how are you finding it's impacted you and your business?
It was when it was first kind of, we were coming to lockdown. There was some nerves within the brands, certainly from a permanent standpoint. Like you said, Ian, on that one, permanent is where we go out. We look for financial directors, managing directors, etc., high level perm vacancies. But the companies just weren't recruiting for those sort of roles. So our permanent division, which is normally one of the most profitable, really took a hit. So our pipeline of jobs went from, let's say, 300k of live jobs to zero. So it was down to the name of the company, which is Swift Temps, obviously the temp side of the business, to really come alive. And one thing that from an ethical point of view and from a business point of view, we were able to support the key worker sector. So we supply to quite a few distribution companies, logistic companies, and also food companies. One of the latest things to get very busy for us was the horticultural industry, which was really hit. And all of a sudden they're starting to ramp up, and we've got a lot of people out in greenhouses, bless them. So it's been from a temp side, we're probably a little bit busier now than we were coming out of it, which is very bizarre.
I can imagine. Do you think, I feel that the situation we're in at the moment, it's made people realise that the low skilled, I'm air quoting for people that aren't watching this on YouTube, but the low skilled workers are some of the most important workers. So you have the people like the care home staff. I've done care previously. In a previous job I worked in care for a couple of years, and it's really, really low paid, and it's a really difficult job, and it's a really important job. And I think hopefully people, companies and councils and government will now realise that jobs like that, like caring, like distribution, like warehouse people, like horticultural people that pick fruit and pick veg and pick flowers, these are people that make the country run, and are very valued and aren't valued, I don't think, enough, and haven't been valued enough. And I'm hoping that coming out of this, I'm hoping we change as a society. I don't know if we will, but I hope we do. I think this has shown it's not just about the doctors, nurses in the NHS, who are doing a fantastic job. There's no denying that. But it's not just about them. It's about all the other people that do the lower paid jobs that are just as valued.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it makes you think about everything. I mean, you only need to go into a supermarket and get your weekly shop, and you find yourself engaging with the person who's scanning your items more, and saying to them, "You're doing a great job. Stay safe." And a mutual friend of ours, well, I think you'll remember him, Ian James, who's a friend of mine, is a delivery driver for Tesco's. Name drop there. He was never really given the credit. He was almost, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I'm a delivery driver for Tesco." And now they're the unsung heroes. When they come to our door, I mean, as it stands at the moment, my wife's pregnant, so she's shielding.
Is she hyper shielding, not outside the house?
Yeah, proper hyper shielding. Yeah. I mean, it was only the other day that I took my 2 daughters out in the car, and they were both like, "Daddy, we've not been in this car for 7 weeks." Because yes, we've been around the park and things here, but we've got to be careful. But those unsung heroes, when they come to the door and they've got the bags and they've got the shopping, they're your little kind of, your little superstars. And yeah, it's the same for my workers as well. The guys who are out in those fields at the moment, either planting, the new flowers that go on, to make people smile in their gardens, to the people that are picking, peas, and then our people in the warehouses that are picking goods that are going to supply chains. So I think you're right, Ian. I think for all the nastiness, the uncertainty, and the upset we're going through, society has to change from this. We have to look at the people that got us through, the nurses, the unskilled. Let's look at it. Let's look at the whole place and let's throw some money at them.
Do you think it will, though? Or do you think at the end, this time next year, we'll be back to moaning about everything and anything, and we'll be back to how we were? Or do you think it will have a proper change on a generation, basically?
I think certainly it makes people think. I mean, it's, again, I use my daughters as the example when we went out in the car. We just went out because you can now drive to a green space, which we did. And just to kind of be in the woods and stuff, they were so excited. And our kids now in the generation now are more excited about Xboxes or, all of those little gadgets and hoverboards and all things like that. But it's different. I'm seeing a different change in them. They want to go outside. They want to play, and I never thought I'd be one of those people that go, oh, you want to go outside and play in the, play with the trees and all sorts of stuff like that. But kids are starting to...
Like 1 hour, child.
I know, yeah. So I'd like to think, I would like to think that it wasn't one of those things where you get to New Year's Eve and you go, right, my New Year's resolution is this. I'm going to do this. I think something's got to change.
COVID-19 done, tick. Let's move on. So hopefully if people are listening to this in 3 years' time, they'll be going, what was that? What was COVID?
I know, what was that?
Yeah, what was that? What did you live through? 28 days later, that's what we lived through, I tell you.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Bill Murray at the moment.
Let's go back. So we met when we worked for a company called KMB Telemarketing. Baggeridge Brick. I always remember Baggeridge Brick and GE Capital. Avis Car Rentals, all those. I remember them. I'm not name dropping. That's who we work for.
It gives me a shiver and I smile at the same time.
Yeah, I do. I hated it and I loved it. I hated the job. I liked the people.
It was hard work.
It was
hard work. Anyone that says telemarketing, it's easy. It was, this comes from the two guys that you're listening to now, that by making fun, we would actually create storylines of wrestlers within the building toilets.
I knew you'd bring this bit up.
No, I mean, it was actual serious storylines in about a 4 minute. Now, whatever the bosses for, but all of a sudden, you get about the 5 or 6 lads who worked in the office going into the said toilet with lots of noises and throwing of toilet rolls and cutting promos in the middle of the toilet by a urinal.
Do you know, I can't believe we did that. I can't believe
we got away with it.
I can't believe we got away with it. I can't believe we did it.
I think we did a whole WrestleMania once in the toilet.
Yeah, and I'm. That's not the reason I would go into a toilet now.
No, not at all. Certainly not making the noises with us guys. Seriously.
Oh dear me, yeah, that was.
So I digress about that, but it was tough. It was. You were on the phones. You had to make kind of, it was like 3 appointments a day with senior people, and it was hard work. You had to dial and smile, and and
who, what, when, where, why, which, and how.
Oh, still I use that now. Still, let's do a bridge.
Yeah.
Come on. Ow. However,
yeah.
You will have an appointment.
Won't
what
you?
is it? Isn't it?
Isn't it? Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's why you were better at it than me.
Question. So
KMB, then what do you do? I'm trying to figure out why you went into staff recruiting.
Well, I kind of had a bit of a mixture. Really,
did you do car sales?
No, I
didn't. Surprises me, to be fair.
You think so? But no, I left in 2000 and I think it was 2001. So yeah, it would have been. And I went over to a home building and renovating company. So there's actually a magazine called Home Building and Renovating Show. And I actually sold space for. Let me go back, actually. Sorry to be an absolute pain. My time at K&B, if you remember, I took a summer out. And I actually left K&B.
Yes, you did.
To work at Camp America.
Yes.
In Connecticut.
Because we met in New York. We'll go on to that in a minute.
We did, yeah. So Ian and I obviously would come on to radio a bit later. But I'd always been interested in radio and started off on a station called Hospital Radio Woodrow or Alex, I think it was back then. And it was Radio Alex.
It was Radio Alex, yeah, Hospital Radio Alex.
Yeah, doing bits of radio as well. And I was kind of really getting sick of the telemarketing stuff. And I hadn't taken my year out. I hadn't been to university. And I just saw this advert for Camp America. And I didn't know what it was. I thought, well, it sounds camp. I'm a bit camp. I'm going to go along. So went along, and there was kind of all seats in like this cool gym, and really bizarre. And, you know, all of these really outgoing American people, you know, hey, do you want to come to our side? And I was thinking, what is this?
Have I entered a cult?
It was a bit like that. So I ended up going along to one of the stands, and it said Performing Arts Camp. And I thought, well, that's right up my street. Went along to it. They asked what I'd done, told them that I'd done a bit of radio and presenting through the Disney card in there. I'm sure you mentioned that a bit later.
We will.
So it was literally, and I remember it vividly now, the guy said, okay, so what are your plans for this summer? And I said, well, probably working, to be fair. Probably working and going to Chicago Rock. Didn't have a clue what Chicago Rock was. So that's a bar in Redditch, where I'm from. And he said, well, you're not actually. You're going to be working in Connecticut, running our radio station. And I remember it was one of those moments where you just think, I really didn't know what I was coming into, and I didn't expect to leave here, you know, going to live in America for a year. And it was that instant. And I remember phoning my mum at the time and just going, so I'm off to America, Mum. Bizarre, but literally one of the most rewarding experiences. I taught on a summer camp with kids, probably from about 10 to 16. There was a few famous faces there. So Kevin Bacon's son was there, taught him. And also Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter was there as well. So
I need a name drop sound effect.
You do, yeah. So it was amazing. Look, I was 21 at the time, and I was a young lad from Redditch flying over to America, running a radio station.
So I remember that year because so you'd gone to America, and you were like, well, after we've done the Camp America, we're going to go for traveling around America. I think
that's
it took
right,
a couple of months, didn't you? And I thought, okay, I want to use this opportunity to go to New York. So, having only ever been abroad once before in my life, I decided that it would be a good idea for me to book my own flight, my own hotels, and fly to America on my own, from Birmingham Airport to Paris Charles de Gaulle to JFK, and arriving in New York on my own for a night in a hotel on my own, sort of. And New York, I loved New York. I think it's an absolutely fantastic city. I want to go back there at least once again, because it is so noisy. And it is like the movies. You open a hotel window and you've got police sirens everywhere.
Yeah,
it's just brilliant. But I remember we agreed. This was back when we didn't have mobile phones. It was email message only, and we thought, we'll meet in Grand Central Station. And it was like, yeah, that's a nice big place. Everyone knows Grand Central Station. I didn't realise quite how big it was. And I think I found a restaurant or something. And I said, we'll meet there at this time. Got there and the restaurant was closed. Wasn't even there. Boarded up. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh, gosh. No, I don't remember that.
And I almost missed you because you and David and whoever else you were with, I can't remember the other people, you were walking out almost of Grand Central Station because you couldn't find me.
Wow, I couldn't remember that.
I can't remember that. And literally, I saw you and I shouted, and one of you turned around. And if you hadn't turned around, I think I probably would have been in New York for 10 days on my own. That's how close it was. I can't believe you don't remember that.
I can't remember. How long did we hang out for?
We were in New York. It's got to be. I'm sure it was a 10-day trip. Was it a 10-day?
Right. So did we stay in the same place or something?
This must have been really memorable for you.
Do you know, honestly, you got to bear in mind here, because later on I'll get to the point where I took a year out and went traveling around the world for a year, and I think that destroyed God knows how many brain cells.
Well, so if I remember rightly, we stayed at the first night we stayed at a hostel, and it was a place where I walked in. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be safe here. I literally slept hugging my bag.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then it was like, right, we're going to go and stay in a hotel. I thought perhaps I may be misremembering, but I thought we were 10 days. It could well have been a lot less.
I know we did Empire State Building, didn't we?
Yes, we did Empire State. It was before September the 11th.
Yeah.
So I think I've got and it was the same year as September the 11th. I think we went in.
Yeah. We missed it by, I think we missed it by
2 weeks, was it, or something like that?
It was weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that. But yeah, I loved New York. And we went to WWE New York.
We did indeed. I remember that. We had some food in there, didn't we?
It was the live taping of SmackDown. You went to America. You did Camp America. You came back and work again?
Yes, came back, went back to K&B. Never go back. So I went back. I couldn't get into it. After being in America for that long, I just couldn't get into it at all. And ended up going to, leaving to go to a company that basically put on these shows throughout the country for the home building and renovating show. So I went there, hated it, absolutely hated it. Oh, it was awful. Real intense selling, real intense stuff. People were vile, absolutely vile. Hi, if they're listening, lovely people. And I just wasn't happy at all. And I actually got that job through a recruiter. And that's where the link is. And I kind of became fascinated with, and I remember saying to her over the phone, well, I kind of want to do what you do. Because I get on with people, I can sell. How about I do what you do? And she told me no. She said no, absolutely. Because at that time, she was thinking about her fee because she just placed me in this vile place. Hate recruiters, seriously, horrible people. So we eventually, I ended up going to another temping agency just for a chat to see what they had, and a guy called Lee Styler, who's a friend to this day, kind of said, "Got something about you, lad." And he said, "Yeah, you can come and join us. You can be a trainee recruitment consultant." Didn't have a clue, absolutely didn't have a clue, and started, and he put me on Telly Tales.
You can't get away from it when you start it, can you?
Absolutely not. And I did all right, and then he kind of started to tell me the ropes. So, this is how you find the right person. And it recruitment is a jigsaw. You've got one piece that's the job, the other piece is the candidate. You put them together, happy days.
Would you say he was a mentor then?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Even I saw him probably over Christmas time. The kids, my wife, we all went over, bit of a reunion, and I still, hold a bit of a is it candle torch?
Torch.
So no, I mean, look, he got me started, and great bloke, really patient. He had a really hard time as well because he was fairly young himself. And I remember the MD of that company just battered him all the time. We've not done this, we've not sold this, we've not sold that. And I remember him coming into the office with bags and he had cold sores and he was just, he was run down. And when he left the company, that's when I was kind of, hi, I'm still here. And at that time, I was one of the only originals. And this was like 3 years into the company. And I must have been 23 at this time. Ended up as as a senior consultant and ended up running the branch. No clue. Absolutely no clue. Honestly.
There's a reoccurring theme in your story here. No clue,
Yeah,
no
there
clue.
is, definitely. So I was earning, a decent amount of money then for my age. We were opposite a nightclub, which was the lovely Time nightclub back in the day. It was, so we ended up doing a lot of deals with the nightclubs. I was earning a lot of money, and life was good at that point. I was a single lad, and I was living the dream for a while. And I always remember watching Wolf of Wall Street and remembering my life at the time. There was a lot of champagne, a lot of partying, and it was all right. That was back in the day. Hi, wife.
We won't go any further in that one.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Clean living.
So that gave me the taste for it. So was there for 4 years, left there, and that's where I remember vividly. I had another moment where I was kind of like, I've been doing this for too long. I've not gone to university. By this time, I was 26. So you'd think the university thing was over by this point. I was just itching to kind of do something different. And I remember talking to one of the temps who had just come back from Australia and went to Thailand and Vietnam and all this other stuff. And I just thought to myself, well, I bought my house really young. Why don't I just get a lodger? They can look after my house. I've got some savings from this super good company. I'm going to go. I went to a place called STA Travel, which is kind of like a cheap travel company for youngsters, really. Went in there with my mate, and we ended up leaving there with a round the world trip for a year. Got to stop going to places. Seriously. Just go into them and then I'm leaving. I'm off. See you later.
We'll see how much information we can get out of him out of that. We will be right back with part 2 of the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. Hello, welcome back to the second part of the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. We are with Damian Lee, and we left you on a cliffhanger, dun dun dun, of the round the world trip that Damian was on. So you've been to this travel agent. I thought you said STI travel agent, which might be more appropriate.
Probably will when you've heard the rest of this story, I tell you.
So you got yourself a round the world trip.
So it was a bit of a whistle stop, really. So first trip was we're starting fairly tame. So we're going to Singapore. Now, Singapore's all right. So it was Singapore. Then it was going over to Thailand, the islands of Thailand, up to Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. Then it was over to Fiji and the Cook Islands, Australia, New Zealand, and then America.
Blimey. So
it was full on, yeah. Got a few rashes and went to a few clinics.
Are you all clear now? Yeah.
Totally, yeah, completely. The funny thing is, the irony, my friend, good old James, he gets an appearance in this, he was looking after my finances while I was away. And he kept saying, Dame, I keep getting these bills from clinics. What's all this about? And I was like, yeah, just being safe. Just being safe. Gotta be safe. So it's fair to say that it was an experience. I mean, from a culture standpoint to an experience standpoint, it's something that, I'll tell probably not everything, but I'll tell my children some things. It was fascinating, to move from Redditch, which I love dearly, it's my hometown, but to leave Redditch to kind of get on a plane and go and eat different foods and different music and different smells and different ways of life, and not turning on a tap and seeing water coming out, I was full on office boy, and I turned into a full-blown beard, hair, beads, all the way up my arm.
I cannot imagine you with a beard.
Oh, it was awful.
Was it a proper full-on beard?
It was a bushy beard. It was pathetic, though. It was like a bushy, not really there beard, but it was a beard. At some point. So it was great. You know, I went with my friend, and we were proper travellers. It was backpacking. You know, there was no, there was no fancy hotels. It was backpacking. You know, if you've ever seen the film The Beach,
Yes.
it was like that. You know, we were on the coast and road. We were eating street food. We were in real slummy places. We slept on the beach. It was great. You know, it was an experience that it really made me grow a lot, actually. Although I had a lot of fun, and I got a lot of numbers of that turned out to be David.
The Lady Boys of Bangkok.
Certainly was, yes, and I had a bad what? Sorry. So I wanted to do it, and that's the one thing, you know, I don't give myself a lot of credit, but I'll tap myself on the back and say I took a bit of a chance. You know, of all these stories where I went in and ended up going to America, and then I walked into a travel agent and went around the world. I was quite a mummy's boy back in the day, and
I agree.
Yeah, and very much like, I think I needed to get out of that kind of, you know, mollycoddled cuts kind of, you know, little boy that I was. So yeah, it was fun, really fun. And I would say to anybody listening to this, get out there, go and see the world when it's safe, when we can hug again. Because it's beautiful out there, and it sounds, you know, a bit airy-fairy, but it is. It's an amazing world. And to see other people and to have different conversations and to taste different tastes, amazing, really good.
You've had your around the world trip. We'll skip forward a little bit. I want to get to where you start your to you actually start the company. So what made you think from working for a company to going, actually I can do this myself? And how much of a challenge and a risk was it for you personally? So the mental issue, the sort of the mental strain, the stress, how much of a risk was it for you to make that change?
I think when you started off there, you said what was it and why did you want to do it for yourself? I'd kind of been in recruitment 4 years at the one company, then another kind of 6-year stint at another, and I wasn't a job hopper. I always had good stints at the companies I was at, and it got to a point. The last company I was at, the third recruitment company, so this was probably about so it would have been about maybe 12 years into recruitment, something like that. And it was great company. Went in and kind of was a name director. They gave me this title. I was like, I'm a director. Love it. Great. With a view to kind of get some shares in the company, which was great. You know, it was kind of, I was in a different place then. I'd had a daughter, and things had changed in my life. My wife's a police officer, so it was kind of, do you know something? I want to do something a bit different here. You know, I want to climb the ladder a bit. So had one of these kind of things where you get promised the earth and you're going to get this and you're going to get that, and all of this happens. And unfortunately, there was a bit of a clash of personality. There was a guy there that was the operations director, who was a director of the company, but within shares. So the ultimate owner, I got on with quite well. The other guy was, put it this way, it wasn't big enough for both of us. You know, I was probably thought I knew it all. He thought he knew it all. It was just a massive clash of personalities. And one of us had to go. And I never thought it was going to be me, because I needed a job, you know. My other daughter was coming as well. And one of my good friends ran his own recruitment company, a driving agency that purely just deals with drivers. We'd always talk when we were a bit drunk, and I'd say, oh, you know, you're lucky, you've got your own company, your own boss. And he'd always say, go and do it, go and do it. It's not that easy. You know, when people say go and do it, it's not a case of that, because at this point in time, I was earning some really good money. I'd had a new house, and I needed to stay on a certain level. So when he kept saying, start your company, and, you know, we were drunk one night having a chat, myself and this mate, and I said, well, look, if you do driving in your business, why don't I come along and work in your business, but I'll do the industrial people. I'll get all the warehouses, and we do it together. And my friend obviously saw pound signs and went, right, okay, so I'll be your boss. No. I love you dearly. We're good mates, but nah. So how about we do something together, and we set a sister company up to the company you already have? And he said, well, you could work in my office rent-free for the first year, but we're going to have to get a bank loan. And I was like, But he said, no, I've got the money. So I'll put 50 grand in, but you've got to go and get 50 grand. And I was like, yep, get 50 grand then. So came home to my wife and said, right then, love, I've left my job and I'm going to start a new company, and I'm going to put the house as a guarantee. Is that all right? Fair to say, that went down like...
I'd like to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
So there's a bit of a theme here. Go into it, end up round the world, go and have a beer with my mates, end up leaving me job and starting a company. Brilliant.
How was that first year? So you start the company, you've got a start loan, so you've taken on some debt. I'm going on my Dragon's Den knowledge here. So you've got a director's loan or whatever they're called. So how was that?
I'm out. I'm not invested. I'm out.
How was that first year for you? You've obviously got all of the pressure of starting a business, getting your clients, getting the first year out of the way. What sort of stress did that put stress on you, on the family, on relationships, on the relationship with the person that you start the business with, or did it go utopian, perfect all the way through?
I mean, it's a great question. I was quite fortunate to the company that so we started Swift. Ross and myself were 50-50 partners. It was kind of me doing the work, basically. He had his own business. I'd already had a client base there because I was in his office. He already had a driving recruitment agency. So all I had to do was phone them and say, hi, I'm Swift. I'm their sister company. And do you have a warehouse? And they say, yeah, we've got a warehouse. We've got lorries. So it was kind of a really great platform for us. You still had to do the selling, don't get me wrong. And things happened fast, Ian. It wasn't kind of, I look at it now, and in 6 weeks, we were turning a profit. When I say turning a profit, that's we had temps out. We weren't making shed loads of money. Yeah. What we did do, and the problem that what we had, and this sounds really odd, we went too big too soon. Now, in recruitment, when you've got temps working for you, not only are you getting your money from your client, but you've also got to pay your temps. So that money's got to come from somewhere. Now, our original investment for Swift Temps was 100 grand. We burnt through £100,000 in 4 months. And that 4 months was paying the wages of the temps, because we went from 4 temps to 130 temps in a really short space of time. And what nearly happened was we nearly ran out of cash. And we were probably, this affected me at home. I'd lost weight. I was ill. It's a lot, because we were probably 24 hours from going under, because we had to find the money to pay 100 odd temps. Our client was paying on 60 days. So we weren't getting any money coming through. And we ran out of cash. So those early lessons was kind of an ego thing. It's sometimes easy to go, no, it's not easy, but it's sometimes in your mindset, you go, right, I'm going to be big straight away. You can't in business. You've got to kind of play smart. And rather than being a huge kind of egg that we had, this huge piece of pie, we needed all little bits of pie as well. You know, you can't just run a company on one big client. You need to spread them out and
I
have
think
different.
the thing must be with a temp agency, a recruitment agency, is that you have the responsibility of paying. So the staff aren't paid by the company; they're paid by you, I presume.
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got the responsibility of 130 odd people when you first start. You've got the responsibility of their livelihood, their income, their bills, their mortgage, their rent, all of that sort of stuff is weighing on you as well. So if you've got 130 people on the book and you run out of money and you can't pay them, that must be a massive stress and worry for you in those early days that you can't pay the people that are working for you.
It was awful. So I had that all on my shoulders, as well as thinking of my own family, but also the temps that had come to make us some money in the beginning. The problem was we were payrolling week after week after week on huge amounts of sales, but not getting the profit coming in because we weren't getting paid for 60 days. And at that time, we weren't invoice financing. So we weren't drawing down on our invoices. We were trying to be cash rich by funding it ourselves. Naivety, because we thought in our own minds, if we invoice finance, we're going to catch a cold later on and be in for all this money. But you can't do business like that. If you've got a deep pockets and you've got, 500 odd grand to self-fund your company, then perfect. But we didn't. We were naive. We went into it very amateur at the beginning. We got so big because one of our clients actually burnt down in Worcester. And I remember phoning my business partner. I think we had 20 temps out at the time. And I was crying to him, literally crying down the phone. I said, that's it. Our main client, it's on the news. It's on the radio now that it's burning. It is burning now. If people know the area, they know the client. So I remember phoning up the company that was kind of like the third party and said, so what's going to happen to this company? Where are they going? And they said, well, they're moving to Chepstow. Now, being Damian, being a bit of a salesy, being a bit of a doesn't think sometimes, I just went, yeah, no problem, Chepstow. Yeah, I'll supply staff there. It's in Wales. The other side of the river. In a different country, may I add. It's in Wales, we're in England.
So the first year, you've gone through the first year. You're in your 5th year, was it now, as a company, did you say?
So we're being year 5 come October. So we're in year 4 at the moment. So
how many people do you have on your books now then? So you've gone from 3 or 4 to 150. You did that really quick. So now we're at the almost year 5. How many people are you employing basically?
So in terms of my own staff now, we've got an office in Redditch. We've got an office in St Helens. We were due to open an office in Manchester. Our office was literally over the river from Old Trafford. Some people might like, some people might hate it. But we had to put that office on hold. The staff are still waiting to go. So Manchester will be opening. I think it will be probably August time now. So overall in the company, directly employed for our staff, we're just over 20 individual staff. And then in regards to temporary workers, it depends. It could be 500 to 800. It depends on the seasonality. But we're doing all right. We're doing okay.
Sound like you are. And I say congratulations on building that from basically nothing to 3 offices and 20 staff in 5 years.
Bless you.
Well done.
Because you don't see yourself very often. You know, when you're your own boss, no one gives you that praise, really.
No.
And
so how do you balance how do you not get it so that it takes over your life? Because obviously you've got your 2 children, your wife, and your 3rd child on the way. So how do you make sure that running the business doesn't take all of your time and you don't spend time with your family?
It's hard. Would I like to be here more on the evenings? Definitely. Getting back at sort of 6:30, 6:45, you're not getting that kind of tea time where you all sit down for dinner. We are now. every night we're together around the table. So for everything, every horrid instance, with what's going on, I've seen my family more now. We're probably closer as a family as well.
So how old are your children?
So my children are 8 and 4.
So you're homeschooling the 8-year-old and the 4-year-old? Probably just the 4-year-old, I would imagine.
Yeah. So
are you homeschooling or is the wife homeschooling?
Well, my wife works till 2:00 at the moment because she's still working as well. So at the moment, my wife and I are both working and our children are home as well. So it's full on. We don't do as much as I'd like to do, but we do what we can. The main thing is they're safe, they're fed, they're healthy. But it's hard. We try and do what we can. But going back to your question, it's hard, because we're still a young company. My plan is to make a lot of money for this company and make my wife and my children's life a lot better. But you don't go into a company thinking you're going to be a millionaire in a couple of years. It doesn't happen. It's only now that I'm in year 4 that I'm starting to see some of the prize, I guess, and not in a massive fashion. I was driving a good old Skoda until only a year ago,
and now I've got a Ferrari.
No, it's now the A5. Actually. But it's not about ego. It's about what am I doing this for? What's the end game? You've all got to have an end game. What are we doing this for? What's the end game? Do I see a long drive and a nice gated house? That's the dream, isn't it? I think we'd all like something like that. But for me, it's just having a company that I can run, look after my staff, make sure they're happy, make sure they can prosper as well. And eventually maybe even doing like a shareholding scheme. So, when I do sit on my throne with my big Cuban cigar, they're all getting the company. Because we've got some great staff. The guys that work for us are the lifeblood. They're hard workers. I've got them now working from home, a lot of my staff, and they're great. So your mindset changes. You're the boss now, and they're looking at you to make them better. It's not just about you. It changes because you want to make them into something. And when they then turn around and say, I remember when Damian taught me that, it's the same as how I used to look at Lee. That's how I look at Lee. I want someone to look at me one day and go, well, Damian taught me that. So it's been a journey, mate. It's changed me. It's aged me.
Let's move away from business, and let's cast our minds back to a very dodgy video camera work and a very dodgy film.
Oh, good Lord!
Yeah, this I knew. I thought I might as well bring this up before you do. So, a bit of a backstory. Wow. You did some TV. So you were on the Disney Channel, which I think you've lived off for the rest of your life. You were on the Disney Channel for...
You weren't long.
No, what was it? One episode? Two episodes?
A couple of weeks. It was a couple of weeks, and that was just from sending a show reel from school with my mates at the time, and we were kind of like a bit of an ant and deck for that kind of in 1998, and we sent a video and didn't think anything of it. Got asked to go along to London to audition, and I remember it now. We were auditioning, and this guy in the room had a phone call, and he started talking in this meeting, and we just carried on, and that's how we got the gig, because we weren't distracted. And look, I'd always used to be, when I was a kid, I used to pretend I was in the broom cupboard, which was like, for people who don't know, that was where the continuity presenters used to be and introduce the children's programs.
Who was your broom cupboard person?
Mine was Andy Crane.
Andy Crane, Andy Peters. Yeah, see, I was Philip Schofield. In fact, probably all three. Philip Schofield, Andy Crane, and Andy Peters. So it was Gordon the Gopher, Ed the Duck. I don't remember what Andy Peters one was.
Wilson, was it?
Something like that. So yeah, go on. Sorry, carry on.
So yeah, you said, that was my kind of thing. I always wanted to be a kids presenter. You always have these burning ambitions. And this is where, people sometimes say to me, who had seen me at school, and I was Mr. Entertainer and Mr. This. Do you never wish you pursued it more? And I said, you know what? Part of me does. Part of me thinks if I'd really pushed myself, could I have made it on radio? Could I have made it on telly? But I did it. Do you know what I mean? It may not have been for long, but I did it. And for me, it sounds morbid, this, but good Lord, if I was to not wake up tomorrow, happily say I've been around the world, I got on the telly, I did radio, and I own my own business. So there's not a lot of things now. Probably the only thing that I really, really, really want to do is go to WrestleMania.
You've still not managed that yet.
Still not managed it, no. Gonna have a box one day.
So we did, so Damian persuaded me to think that I could do a show reel, and we filmed I hope you haven't got tapes because I never want to see it. But we did film a show reel, didn't we? Of varying quality.
Yeah, when myself and the kid that I did the Disney Channel with, we were in London basically doing the Disney stuff, and because we'd never been there before, we're 18-year-old lads. Anyway, we blew the budget, so we ended up buying the best food, alcohol, and stuff in the hotel that we were being put in. It's fair to say that we weren't invited back to the Disney Channel. So that was my career with my mate Matt at the time. That we did a bit of work after that for Channel 5, but we kind of went our separate ways. And I was looking for a new partner because I couldn't clearly do it on my own, so I needed a new partner. And of course, my good mate Ian was as camp as me, and as out there as I was. And I said, well, do you fancy doing this and being on the Disney Channel? And sold him the dream. And we did a god-awful show reel, which I have still. It's on YouTube.
It's not, is it?
It's not.
No, thank God for
that. So we did this show reel. We sent it off, and we never got a response.
No, never heard anything whatsoever.
Never heard anything again.
But we did do radio. So we mentioned Radio Alex, which was the Alexandra Hospital in Redditch, is their hospital radio station, which closed. Relaunched as Hospital Radio Pulse, 1350 AM, 01527 51. I can't remember the number.
Still got it.
Yeah. So so we did that, and we presented a Sunday show.
It was all right, that show.
It was. It was. I would not speak at all for the first couple of weeks. I really didn't want to be on air. And you persuaded me to sort of like, come on, don't just sit there and listen to me talk. You come and get involved. And then that started a 11-year journey for me in radio. Do you see? I regret,
and that makes me proud because you won't say it because you ain't giving me any praise and you ain't changed, to be honest. In terms of, I'd like to think that in a way I was your Lee of the radio thing because you were very shy. And I think when we created the caricature that you became, we gave him a name on air.
Go on, say it. Go on. I know you've been wanting to.
We called him Biscuit Boy because the whole thing was he was the biscuit boy in the studio who would just talk every now and then. So it's funny when you think about it, quite creative. So he was Biscuit Boy. And we just developed, and we did have a good rapport on the air, and it was a good show, and we had some good feedback from it. But you really came out yourself, and I think
one way or the other.
Hello, matron. So I tip my hat to you that when I left to Pastures New, you made a career for yourself.
Have you tried radio since?
Yeah, I was part of, and I still do keep my toes in. So I did a little bit for. So I actually did some proper radio, which hospital radio is still great. I'm not knocking it, but I went on to do some stuff for Sunshine, and had a Sunday show with them.
Is that Muff Murphin?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Writer of the Gladiators theme tune.
Yes, that's the one. Well done. So I joined their station and was there for a while. So I did some stuff for them. Came out of it again. The problem with local radio is there's no money, absolutely no money at all. And I had my real job as well. So I was always loved it, but it was never making enough money. And I think, if I pushed myself back in the early days, probably could have done something, I don't think I would have been like, one of the top guys, but I'd have done all right. But I didn't push myself on that side, which is odd.
I miss radio, and it's one of those things I regret not pushing myself to go into radio. I think it's a wonderful forum. I think in times like this that we've got now, it's one of the best forums because you listen to BBC local radio stations, national stations. It's that thing that connects people because it is so personal. It is so you and the listener. Never you and the listeners. It's you and the listener. I think it's a wonderful forum, which I hope will. But I think radio still has that place.
It's still huge.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Listener, and the thing is, what you're doing here with the podcast is, I listen to a lot of wrestling podcasts, and they're all right, like that. They are huge now, podcasts, and it is a radio within itself. It's adapting. It's the same as what Swift did. Now through this pandemic, we're adapting. You've got to. Do I regret anything with it? I have little things sometimes. Like I work with Stephen Mulhern, who's on
Clang.
And there you go. I work with him on the Disney Channel. Really nice. And sometimes I think I could have been like you, but I didn't. And I wouldn't have my daughters now.
Exactly.
I had that moment, and even if that moment was for a few weeks, I can turn around to my little girls, and they still haven't seen the videos, and say, "Daddy was a presenter once, and I was on the radio once. But guess what? You're going to have a house. You're going to have a house, and you're going to go to university because Daddy's got his own business." Biscuit maker again.
We are not calling me Biscuit Boy. Ever.
I like the fact that you're now Ian Barstow, by the way. I think it's much better.
Do you know, I always think that when my Barstow, it's a name I've had for my whole life. It's our family name. But I always think when you do it on radio, people always go, "What?" And that's why I always... And I think I used the Michaels bit because it was a bit of a persona. At the time, it was...
Was it?
Say again.
Ian Barstow is you.
Yes.
That's you.
And Ian Michaels is the radio persona, although it was me, pretty much. But yeah, the Michaels thing was the separate part of it. But
you needed to do it. I think also psychologically, not being all deep here, but I also think you could almost be Ian Michaels, hide behind that persona a little bit, because it's not, you wasn't really Ian, you're Ian Barstow, but Ian Michaels was a caricature of Ian Barstow. And I think it was just like a wrestler, your volume up a little bit.
Ian Michaels was camper than the Ian Barstow would be at the time, that's for certain.
Oh, I didn't really get on with Ian Michaels, to be honest. Couldn't stand him. Hated that guy. Throw a disc at his head.
So, Damian, moving on to personal probing questions and all of that. How long have you been with your wife? And where did you meet, and why did she fall for you?
So I purchased her on. Can't say that, can I?
That's staying in.
Oh wow! Karen and I have known each other actually since we were 16. She hated me, I hated her, and she was a trollop, and she thought I was a bit of a div. So we
Good
used
judge
to
of
see
character from her then.
Yeah, we used to see each other out and about. Karen used to be in short skirts and high heels, and I'm a leg man, so I used to think, oh, but I hate you. I think you're. And she used to see me in my blazers and my white shirt and my fake tan, and she used to think, who is he? Dale Winton, what's going on? Fast forward to 2010. So we've been together 10 years this year. And I say honestly, I'm sick of saying his name. My mate James. My friend James, his wife is best friends with Karen, and they set up a blind date. And I remember turning up at the Washford Mill. So we had this blind date. She saw it was me. She was like, and you know when you see someone under their breath go, oh, God, I could see it saying it about me. So anyway, we had a date. I invited her to my 30th birthday party, but forgot to tell her I was seeing someone else. And that person I was seeing was also at my birthday party. So she thought I was a bit of a divhead. And so I kind of binned the one I was seeing on that night, because she didn't really want to know anyway. So I said, off you go. And ended up pursuing Kaslar, old Karen.
I'm getting flashbacks, Damien, to something completely different.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off air.
Yeah, but do you know what I'm talking about? Lisa, was it? No, not Lisa.
Oh, she was in the cupboard. She was in the cupboard. She was in the wardrobe. Oh no, she was watching. Oh dear.
I just remember that. I can't remember what it was, but it just.
Oh no.
It all went wrong, didn't it? And it just.
Why was she in the wardrobe?
Is she still there? Anyway, so yeah, just you telling that story of you having two people that you were looking to go out with on the same thing. That just reminded me of that.
No, great with the eyes wide shut moment. Lovely. I've got a headache. So yeah, we started dating, and typical fashion with Damian, it never slow build. So we had 3 months of amazing times, like lock-ins at pubs. We would have laughs. We would just be great, like proper teenage in love, but we weren't teenagers. And then basically she took me on holiday, which was really nice. She took me to Tenerife. She paid for it. Modern woman, love that. Holiday, she started getting a bit prissy and all a bit like narky and a bit jealous and all stuff like that. When we got home, we did a pregnancy test and she was pregnant. So I reacted in, a way that you'd expect Damian to react, which was I told her to get out. What an absolute idiot. So I remember saying, well, it's a setup. This is you. How I came to that conclusion, obviously no biology. It's you've done this. And proceeded to try and kick her out. And it was only my mum who turned around and was like, Damien, how much have you done with your life? You've done this, you've done that. It's time you grow up, you're going to be a father. Do you love this girl? Proper EastEnders. And I remember going, well, yeah, I do. And she went, well, you need to go and get this girl back. And the rest is history. So Bethany Rose was born in 2011 on Independence Day, July the 4th.
Well, I have to say, I think you're glowing as a father.
Oh, bless you.
No, I do. You. I think you're glowing, and obviously you've got the third child on the way. So good luck with that, and I hope
you, buddy.
Hope it all goes really well. Unfortunately, we've run out of time to talk about the wrestling.
Right. Well, that means we'll have to do a sequel. People are like, who is this guy?
So, Damien, thank you very much for your time. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really, really interesting. You talk as much as you used to. What was it? One song every hour was about a good show, something like that.
We were literally the Chris Moyle show of Hospital Radio.
And I still listen to him as well.
There was hardly XFM, brilliant. Yeah. There was hardly any music. If it was ABBA or something.
S Club 7.
S Club 7, that was one of our favourites.
You only had to look in my CD case that I used to bring with me every week to realise that I was hiding a secret.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that I never knew about that secret, but I mean, at one stage we could have been the Ant and Dec
couple. Right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Damien. That was really enjoyable. Thank you very much for joining me on the As Yet Unnamed podcast. Damian Lee, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you very much to Damian Lee for joining me on this episode of the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation and I hope you found it interesting. I really enjoyed speaking to Damian. It's been a long time since we've had a catch-up, and it was a little bit of a catch-up on the podcast, but I hope you enjoyed the conversation nonetheless. Very, very interesting indeed. If you want to find out more about Damian's company, you can do. It's swifttemps.co.uk. That's swifttemps.co.uk. And you can have a look there if you're looking for recruitment needs in the Worcester, Redditch and St Helens area. Hope you're enjoying these podcasts. If you are, then you can get in contact with me via Twitter and Instagram at IanHRP. You can also check out my website, dracopphotography.co.uk, and also dracopmotorsport.photography. And I am on YouTube, youtube.com/IanHRP. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then thank you. Why not click the subscribe button and the like button as well? It really does help. And if you're listening to this on the podcast app, then just click subscribe and we will appear in your podcast feed as if by magic every time we release a new episode. So until the next time we meet, thank you very much for downloading the As Yet Unnamed Podcast. I am Ian Barstow and we will be back very soon with another interesting and engaging conversation. Until then, thank you for listening and bye for now. The As Yet Unnamed Podcast is recorded by Ian HRP Productions. Copyright 2020 Ian Barstow.